You're tuned into RX Radio. Movement prescribed. Brought to you by Prescript.com. A personalized approach to keeping you healthy and making your best even better. Your hosts, Dr. Jordan Shallow and Dr. Jordan Ginta.
All right, guys, we're back. Another episode of RX Radio with me as semi-always, as always as anyone has been lately.
I think so.
Killian Hamilton, Esquire. That's what I'm in.
Not so much, man. How are you?
Yeah, good. He's still posted up in the state of grandeur that is Florida, out of control.
Yeah,
ridiculous. This place is insane. Even Gene Wilder would be like, "Yo, we gotta ease up here. This is too much." Big Business. Coming at you live.
Big Business V3.0.
So today we talk about, I think we have a more human conversation around the idea of leverage. I think that would probably be a summary around it. And a lot of these business podcasts circle back to personal development rather than professional development per se, right? And like managing yourself before you manage your books, that kind of thing. Understanding like who you are and who you can be, who you need to be for other people, reading the room, things like that. Before we dive into that, skill acquisition, upcoming semester going live today. I was going to say mañana. I've been living in Miami for a few weeks now, and I want to speak in Spanish, but mañana I think means tomorrow. So I'm not going to say that. Skill acquisition live, www.pre-script.com in my link tree and Killian's link tree, because I have a link tree now, thanks to Killian. Go, sir. Skill acquisition. What are we looking at?
Skill acquisition is a deep dive into not only how we learn, but why we learn the way that we do. Taking an even closer look into the stages, not only of cognitive associative autonomous, but the actual stages and steps of cognitive development and association and the laws and principles that we abide by when we associate.
Boom. What an elevator.
Boom.
You practice that in the mirror every morning? That's good. No, but I think like coming off the first semester, the feedback that we've gotten and knowing this to be your, one of the overarching principles that guide your decision-making process in programming and the results you get with your clients, both and as we'll see today from like a mentorship, business mentorship side, the results that, understanding these concepts of personal development and leverage, but also understanding like the theoretical training concepts and your clients' results on the training side, the concepts are irrefutable. And I think having an overarching training meta theory, as important as having an overarching more moral metaphysic, having that meta theory allows you to put things in context, right? Like I don't think necessarily there are bad exercises per se, but it's timing. It's how these things exist in not just the triplanar model of movement that the anatomy and biomechanics nerds sort of look at, but how we look at most importantly, the fourth dimension of time, right? And how we can create this four-dimensional model using this skill acquisition meta theory around training and start to take all the pieces on the table and put them together in a way that starts to shape exercise programming in an efficient and effective fashion. So big fan, obviously, of the way you program and the theory in which that guides it. So I think it's insanely valuable in building the competency for a trainer to then have the confidence, which is actually going to bleed really well into the conversation we have today around leverage. So Killian Hamilton, skill acquisition, May 29th, Monday, May 29th, first lecture. That is for sale live now on the Prescript website. So guys, you missed last semester, do check this one out. And we're going to dive into the episode today without any further ado. Any closing notes before we get to it?
Let's just do it.
Rock and roll. And people want to talk big business. It's been.
Well, I mean, there's no bigger business, no smaller business than whatever the fuck we do.
So this is V3.0, big business V3.0.
Yeah.
Leverage.
All right, let's talk about leverage. Let's first define the word leverage.
Okay. Yeah. Go. What do you got?
Okay. So a lever. No, I'm kidding.
Jesus.
I don't actually know physics either. I don't know physics or business, so both of these definitions are bullshit.
You know mustaches.
That's all I know, and all I know how to leverage this mustache. But I think to define leverage, I was thinking about this. The first thing you have to define is reciprocity.
Right.
Because leverage is born of a reciprocal relationship of two individuals or two things.
Sure. And you know what's interesting? I was thinking about this as we kind of like decided on this as a podcast business subset topic, was actually that book Influence that you were telling me about that I downloaded. And one of the principles that they talk about is this idea of reciprocity, that humans by their nature are inclined to reciprocate, right? Mm-hmm. But I think there's very little foresight and 4D chess you need to play to actually be able to maximize points of leverage. Case in point, in the book, they talk about, and maybe you remember, I don't remember the name of, like, I don't want to say cult, but let's, for lack of a better term, say cult. The people who hand you flowers in the airport and wear monk robes. Do you know what they're called?
Hare Krishna.
Right. So Hare Krishna. So that was one of the things that really clicked with me and resonated with me in that book, was that this guy was saying that he would monitor these people in the airport just in passing as he was traveling. And he would watch sort of how this cult, for lack of a better term, behaved. And what they would do is they would hand out flowers and then ask for donations. And obviously people are annoyed. Like, yo, I'm trying to catch the 6:30 to Heathrow. I'm in the middle of O'Hare Airport. It's fucking 17 football fields long. Get the fuck out of my way with your bathrobes and these stupid tulips. But people would take them, and the second they took them, they'd be inclined to give something back. Even though 10 steps down the hall, they would just take the flower they were given, in which they exchanged for money if they would throw it away. And then, like, the cult guy would go around and grab all the flowers out of the trash can and bring them back to the cult people to start to disseminate them again to get more money. And I was like, wow, that's essentially leverage, right? Like, that's the idea that they're leveraging this transaction. They're leveraging this better angel of our nature to get reciprocation. So in business settings, if you can be like, honestly, I think it takes a modicum of tact, like a modicum of like, yo, read the fucking room. Like, seriously. Sometimes you got to be big, sometimes you got to be small, sometimes you got to be loud, sometimes you got to be quiet, right? Sometimes you have to modify yourself to the situation. And it doesn't have to be like this polar shift. It's literally just like half a deviation off normal towards the preferred state of your existence of the individual in which you're attempting to leverage. And if you have something valuable to offer, I think the biggest thing when we start to talk about business leverage is that people get almost like this insidious, manipulative kind of feeling that comes over them. It's like, look, if what you're bringing to the table is inherently valuable, it is something that this person needs or wants, and you're attempting to use this to overcome their objection, it is not malevolent. It's malevolent. And this is where I think when people pose this issue with me, it's malevolent if you don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Correct.
Right.
And I had a conversation last week with one of the people that I do mentorship with. And his biggest apprehension was basically, I don't want to put out a product that's not good enough. And I said to him, like, are you a good trainer? And he's like, yeah. I was like, how many certifications do you have? Laundry list. How many in-person clients do you have? 25. I was like, is there any way you would hit send on something that you weren't 1,000% comfortable on if someone gave you money? He's like, no way. I'd make it the best thing ever. So it's like, then don't worry about it, because you as a person are intrinsically good. So you're not going to make bad decisions, right? We've kind of talked about this. There's like, I don't think everyone's intrinsically good. I think we were all intrinsically bad people and we were motivated to do better things. But it's just the idea that, fear motivates you to avoid noble acts. But intrinsically, if you're a good person, and you especially, like, you're a great example of this, like, you're never going to do something that violates your ethics or your value system. You're never going to do it. So there's no decision you would ever make where you would ever cross that line. So it's something you don't need to waste bandwidth on a conversation that doesn't need to happen, because it's almost guaranteed to never happen.
I think the hardest part for people is getting those first couple of transactions under their belt, like setting a precedent for yourself and others to act in good faith, right? Because once you have that, like, and it gets difficult. I saw this a lot coming out of chiropractic college, seeing kids like, you're hogtied by $200,000+ of debt, right? Which, that's a gun to your head. You graduate at 25 years old and you've known nothing but the inside of an academic institution since the age of 7. And all of a sudden it's like, you're telling me I can take this PI case and make 5 Gs. You're telling me this car accident's got med pay. You're telling me this is a personal injury lawyer. You're telling me this is a workers' comp case. And dude, the second you make that deal with the devil, right? It's like, and some of the image, like some of the books that we talk about all the time are about, you know, how people take these small steps to hell, like, or to get to hell one small step at a time, right? So it's like, you cannot compromise, right? Because if you compromise, you yourself become compromised. So it's difficult in times. And when we, you know, when we advise and we talk with like upcoming coaches, the longer you can play that game of like, you know, not reaching for instant gratification, the longer you can allow your morals and values to guide your decision making process, the more of a foundation you're going to make in building that reputation of being someone who acts in good faith, right? So like, you get to a point where you could talk to someone in the major leagues. Like I told a guy in the, like, I told a guy in the NFL last week, I mean, you know who it is, but I'm going to let him remain anonymous. This guy is 6'5", 240, runs a 4.5 flat. And I told him that if I saw another band around his ankles, I was going to run him through the wall. I said this to this human being. And because it's like, that comes from a position of good faith. I know that what I bring to the table for this guy is going to provide him value. So I can sit there and pitch him like an astronomical amount of money and not feel bad about it, right? Because I know I have like his best interest in mind, because that was the same guiding principles that I used when I sold my first client 10, 12 years ago. And I think if people don't reach for the quick buck, if people can prolong instant gratification, people can build this foundation, this base in which to leverage situations and by their reputation of acting in good faith, then they can become more confident. But I feel people, they can't get out of the gate. They can't get out of the gate with this shit.
And I think part of it is understanding not what you need in the moment, but who you want to be in the long run. So like I've had the privilege, and I've been grateful enough to be surrounded by like yourself, Marcus, Leone, our boy John, Hayden, Steph. And it's the idea that for me, like when I set out to do what I did, the first person I ever met in fitness. So I worked at Good Life for a single day. The second day was this Good Life launch thing, and John Berardi showed up to speak. And this was like John Berardi pre-precision nutrition. And I was like, holy fuck. This is the god, right? It's the OG.
But we got to like, people, if you don't know who John Berardi is, you don't know the game, right? Like one of the things, like we both, like we look back into history. It's like one of the first questions I'll ask someone is like, if they're getting into fitness, is like, who's Charles Poliquin? You don't know who Charles Poliquin is? Like, you don't know where you're going if you don't know where what you're doing has been, right? So John Berardi, GOAT. Fucking GOAT. And that's like walking in to learn how to play hockey the first day. Like, hey, who's this guy? It's like, oh, it's Wayne Gretzky. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Dude, unreal. What a kickstart.
So like he talks about being a trainer in Florida, flying to a private island with a dude on vacation, training him. And like, I'm sitting there and I was a carpenter 2 weeks before this. And I was like, just fucking sweat my bag off at some fucking building. This guy's telling me people fly him out to private islands to fucking work out. So I was like, whatever this guy does is exactly what I'm going to do. So this was 8.5 years ago. And I remember sitting there and going, if this is what the industry has to offer, that's all I'm going to do. That's going to be what it is. So like, I think people see, a journey in isolation, not a journey as a whole. And then throughout this, I've met people who have tested the capacities of this industry. And in my mind, it was never what I could achieve in the day. It was like, whenever I exit, if I am a product and I'm going to exit, I'm going to go public sell, I'm going to exit this. I'm going to be this guy. So for me, I never sought the instant gratification of making $50 a day, because I knew if 10 years from now, I'm going to have a business that's exponential and to be proud of, I will have effectively had to have paid my bills along the way. That was never a goal, because it was assumed if I get to the end of this, I'll have done that anyway. How am I going to be worth $1 million if I was never worth $50? So I never sought the instant gratification, because it was assumed to even last 10 years in this industry, I would have had to have been there at some point anyway.
Well, it's hard I think, because the industry lends itself, especially now more than ever, to instant gratification, both on the consumer and creator side, right? Like, we're looking as creators for instant gratification of posts that we put up. Are we getting this feedback of like, because we're not playing the long game, right? Like if a post doesn't do well, we like scrap it and we like go post another one. Or if a post does do well, we just do the same crap on repeat over and over and over again. It's like, no, long game. right? Like, think of it like an investment. Think of it like the venture capitalists across the board. It's like the guy's going to lose 99 million out of 100, but one of those is going to hit, and it's going to be Snowflake, and he's going to IPO, and he's going to go buy an island and hire a trainer. He's going to hire Killian to come out and fucking put him through pull-ups and front squats, right? Like, that's going to be how you have to look at it. Yet it's almost antithetical to the mindset of someone that gets into the industry these days, because it can be seen as this quick way into like a lifestyle that offers you freedom of time and place. But if you're going to have it be a career, you have to fight against that lesser angel of your nature and be like, look, you're going to have to pay your dues. You're going to, as you said the other day, which I really liked, and I've probably used it 3 or 4 times since, is you're going to have to fucking grind your teeth, right? You're going to have to cut your teeth in this industry to actually make it as a career. And the longer you can, or the more you can prolong that delayed gratification, you're not only going to build like, you know, the financial and the skill set and the relationships, but you're going to build like the morals and ethics that when you get to a point where you're looking down the barrel of like an incentivized gun that might put dollars in your pockets, you have enough of a base and enough of a confidence in yourself and what you stand for as a trainer, as a coach or whatever, that you can just like, yeah, no, like, it's easy. It's so, and it was so cliched as I heard it coming up in my career that, like, you know, when people approach you with sponsorships and all that, like, if you know what you value, like, stick to your values and all that. But the more you do it, the more it becomes real. Like, I always thought when I passed up on opportunities in the past where it was like, okay, this is infringing on like some of my values, whether it's like what I believe in a product or anything like that, it was difficult. Like, it was difficult to do that. Like, there was part of me that like looked at my student loan and looked at my giant stupid diploma and was like, fuck, like, it would be nice to have an extra G a month, I'm not gonna lie. But the more you do it, the easier it becomes, right? Like, now, like, there's stuff that comes up for me and you that it's more than $1,000 a month, and we're like, yeah, no. Or there's people that we could work with, like, no, we're good. So it does become easier. It becomes like a skill that you need to practice, and it's something that you need to become aware of. And a lot of people, I really feel they stumble out of the gate because they can't prolong that gratification. They look for that instant gratification.
Yeah, I think a part of it too, to go to another book that like I read and helped me a lot, was Crucial Conversations. And part of having difficult conversations, which could be turning down working with someone entirely, is the idea of starting with heart. It's like, if nothing was on the line, if nothing else mattered, why for free would I do or not do what I'm doing, right? It's like really starting with, you know, if this person never paid me, would I work with them? And I thought of this when I worked in person with people. I'd sit across from people and go, would I work with this person for free? Sometimes I was like, no. And if I would, that's somebody like that I would try really hard to gain as a client, because I knew regardless of what happens in that relationship over a year, like, you think you spend, like, I hope even in the digital space to spend, you know, a year plus with people, you know, and really nurture a relationship. And the idea is, if everything sucked, would I want to pick up this phone? And then from there, you can tie, how much money would it cost me to pick up this phone? But at the same time, it's like, just, do I want to talk to this person? Like, I spend 9 to 11 hours a day on Zoom, and like, I fucking tell you, man, 8 a.m., 8 p.m., checking into Zoom. It's like, do I want to sit and talk with this person for an hour?
And that's where you can start to gain some of your leverage, right? And like, kind of getting back to the point, it's you never ask anything of anyone, right?
No.
But it does become that reciprocation. Like, there are days where you get on the phone and you don't want to, but there'll be days where you might need something from other people, and they're going to want to help you because of the days that you picked up the phone, right? We have a friend of ours, Don Saladino. Don taught me this lesson. Like, yeah, shouts out Don. Are you drinking a mojito? What is that? It's like, are you fucking drinking a mule at like 8 in the morning? What's going on here?
No, it's a rum and ginger. Live your life.
No, it's not.
It is.
You're out of control. What is this guy doing? Happy Valentine's Day to you and yours.
There you go.
There you go. Salute.
Cheers.
Much love. But no, he taught me this, man. And like, if you don't know Don, you don't know training, in my opinion, and you don't know leverage. Like, we're going to get Don on the podcast. Public service announcement. We are building out a sick video podcast. So you're going to be able to see this mug and that mustache and his mule or his rum and whatever. you got to start going to meetings, homie. Like, it's getting,
I know, too. What time is it?
That bottle's getting earlier and earlier. But no, so I remember having this conversation with Don as we were driving in from Long Island to New York into Manhattan for him to train a client, right? So he has this very wealthy client who hires him to bring a car, or hires a car to go out to Long Island to get him from Long Island into the city to train this guy at his building. And he trains him at 5 to 6, and then the driver brings him out to his gym and then continue on with his day. So he's like, I've never asked anything of anyone, but he's looked at me dead set. And Don's like the nicest guy, you know him. Like, he's like the nicest guy in the world. But he looked at me, he goes, if I needed to raise $500 million tomorrow, I could do it in the snap of my fingers. And then just went back to like having his little glasses at the bridge of his nose and sending a text message, right? So it was like, that to me was like the ultimate point of leverage. It was like, a lot of people come out of the gate, and we see this with social media as well, where it's like, you know, people walk into the room and the phone's out, right? And they're recording, oh, we're here with so-and-so and like blah, blah, blah. And they're on the stories. It's like, you lost it. You went for the instant gratification. You didn't look to establish this relationship, this long-term relationship. You looked for that visceral spike. You looked for that's like gratification. It's like, that's not real leverage, right? Like, they're going to repost it and you're going to get 4 followers. Like, dude, that's shit. You could establish a relationship with this dude. You could work with him. You could train him. You could have dinner with his family. Like, if you could just keep it on the low. Like, people just fucking, you know what it is? People just blow their load. Like, that's like, it's like, oh, dude, fucking take it easy, man. Holy shit. The second they see something shiny in front of them, they just jump at it. It's like, dude, and this is what it does not take. Like, we are not, and maybe I'm not going to group you into this. I am not a smart person.
Well, group me in.
Well, it's like, all right, we are not smart people.
Yeah.
So but it's like, and it doesn't take this, you know, beautiful mind, wind talker decoding system. It's like, just don't be an idiot. And it's like, they're not far off from each other. Like, being tactful enough to be able to leverage a situation to gain some sort of favorable reciprocity down the line does not take, you don't need to be doing, you know, whatever, like Toastmasters public speaking courses. Keep your cell phone in your pocket, look people in the eye, shake their hand, be aware, assess your situation. Like, assess when you leave a room, assess how you behaved, how you were interpreted, what people were like, where people were looking when they were talking at you. Like, were they looking at your shoes? Did you have something on your face? Did you say, I fucked up the other day? I was at a client's house, and you know, my parents use God as a babysitter. Right. I did the whole confirmation thing. You kneel in front of the guy. It's kind of weird. And he's got the big hat on and the giant cross. Did that. But the second I had hockey on Sunday mornings, my parents were like, yeah, your mother's the tooth fairy. Christmas isn't real. God's whatever. Like, don't do drugs. But I've been so far removed from sitting at a dinner table where they said grace. And dude, I've been kicking myself for the better part of a week, because I was invited to a client's home and was fed the food of their table. And I'm an animal. I'm an idiot. Like, there's food in front of me. I don't know when my next meal is going to come. So I hold the fork like a shovel, like some sort of like just peasant street person who will never see food again. And so there's food on the table. It's like my reptilian brain just goes, eat the food. And I start mucking it. And then I look up, and like the 3-year-old daughter's like looking at me like, Daddy, is it time to say grace? I'm like, fuck. I've been kicking myself for a week. I will, at every table I go to, I am not, and that's common practice. Like, you shouldn't eat until other people are eating. And that was a lapse of judgment for me. And it's plagued my every other thought for the better part of the last week. But it's like, reassess your situation. Yeah. So your next situation becomes better. People just like, there's no awareness. And for me, in that lapse of awareness, I'm like, fuck, I'm such an idiot. It's literally been killing me all week. But it's something as simple as that.
But that inherently is what makes you a good person. Explain. Because you're aware of it. Like, you fucked up and you're immediately like, I'm thinking about it for the rest of the week. That is something like, if anybody on this call does something wrong, and trust me, I do things wrong. I do things wrong so often I can't even describe the things that I do wrong. Versus you didn't say grace once. Dude, every day I fuck something up, drinking at 10 a.m. But it's like, what's going on here? But at the same time, it's like, if you walk away from that and you go like, I fucked this up, that's a moral win to know that you're at least aware enough. And two, like, have, you know, whatever this intrinsic, you know, caring nature is to think like, I need to do this better. Because there's people that do shit like that all the time. They don't even know they did it. So it's like, you can at least sit with that, and no one ever gets upset at that. If you've ever tried to apologize to someone, rarely outside of the blast radius of them being upset, are they ever mad that you apologize?
Right.
And I do it all the time. Like, I'll reach out and like, I'll catch myself now. Like, I'm a very uninhibited person when it comes to the bullshit that I yell out into space. And I try to improve this. And there's been 5 instances this week where I've said something or I've reacted and I've gone, you know what, wait, I want to stop. And I just want to say that whatever I just did was probably inappropriate. I'd just like to reset. I'm going to take a minute with myself because I understand this is wrong. And I don't even need to start again, but I would like to just rephrase. Then it's like just being self-aware enough that even if it happens, you're aware of it is what makes you a good person. And if you can sit with that, you can understand that more often than not, the decisions you move forward are probably not, you know, malevolent in any way.
Yeah. And I think it's definitely like a circumambulatory process, that like the concentric circles in which you make these mistakes in, like 5 in a week for you, dude, we're going to call that a PR. I've been on labs with you where we did 5 in 30 seconds. We did seminars. I remember one in Calgary and I've actually used this moniker a few times since, and we have photo evidence of it. It's probably 2 of my favorite photos of me and you. And yes, I have favorite photos of me and you. And it's the one where you dropped the Stu McChill line.
Oh, yeah.
Calgary. And it's literally me looking back at you going, did that motherfucker just say that? And then the next one is me just burying my fucking head in my palm going, well, there goes the company. But it's like you do it with, and this is relate back to the last business podcast, talking about candor, right? Everyone knows your intention of that. And like Stu could have probably been in the room and had a chuckle beneath the duster. Although I think he's got some competition. I think my boy's coming for with the old soup trader. With the old
dumbbell press out.
Yeah, but that's kind of the point, is like, you know, like the candor that comes with it allows you to like leverage those situations. It allows you to be able. Are you just getting roasted? Are you getting roasted in the background right now? Are you sure?
We're good. Are we
pouring another drink?
Maybe soon.
Yeah. But no, I think it's understanding, like being aware and being present are like, whether it's retroactive or the better you get at it, like the latency between understanding how your actions affect people and how can you like navigate that situation. Like it's immediate. Like you see the words leaving your mouth and you're like me, man, in the sense that your mouth moves faster than your brain can work. So it's like your brain's catching up to the things that it said like 3 or 4 seconds ago. And you're like, oh shit, man, that got past the goalie. Yeah. Yikes. But if you can slam on the brakes right away, and the quicker you can narrow that time between what you've said and the acknowledgement of what you said, the easier time you're gonna have. But like, I think there are times where you can start to really skirt that boundary of like, should I apologize? And it depends on what the room is saying. Like, I'll say shit on call. I can see all the faces. It's like, look, you're all complicit. I have it recorded. You're all laughing. If any of you start to like, if any of you come out with some cancel culture bullshit, literally all of you were fucking in tears. And I'll say it in real time. It's like, I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry for that. I'm not apologizing, because I think that too is it's the flip side of that conversation, right? Like I've been experiencing, it literally kept me up last night. It's terrible sleep because I was like, fuck, I felt so bad about not because he's got 3 kids, right? From the ages of like 3 years to 2 twins or a set of twins at 6. And here's this like random meatball sitting at their table, and I'm just devouring food like I've never seen a meal in my entire life. And I was like, what an idiot. But it's like, there's another side to that too, where your values need to put a hard line in the sand of when you shouldn't apologize. Right. And that's the tricky part for people as well. Like, we say things and we mean them. And sometimes we say things because it's kind of funny. And if we understand that, look, our candor, our irreverence is something that we are, that we are doing just purely for entertainment. And if we push a button, like obviously our goal was to not offend. Yeah. But there are things that I say sometimes that it's like, this is something that is an extension of my values that you will have to put a bullet in my head before I apologize for that. And I think people not understanding their values, which it leaves them susceptible to situations on either end where, like, you know, they're groveling at the opportunity to do something that will stray them off course for the long term, or they find themselves in situations where they can't put a hard line in the sand and be like, no, like, I won't do this, or I won't say that, or right. Like, people are like, they do things and don't do things, right? You said the other day, and it stuck with me. It's probably been a few weeks, like, inaction is a verb. Right. So knowing what to do and what not to do are the exact same thing, right? Because they're both actions. And I think if you have your values set, then it becomes an easier point of leverage to start to enter into like these social contracts in which you can reciprocate and hopefully gain some value into the future of your career.
Yeah, it's funny, like, looking at like the idea of reciprocity as well. And I think a lot of, like, I've had conversations where people are like, "Yeah, do you think I could tag this person in this? Do you think they would mind?" And it's like, if you're asking that question, you don't know them well enough to tag it.
Right.
It's a weird thing to do. Like, I rarely tag people in shit I do, but if I've ever like mentioned someone in the fucking caption and tagged them, it's like, because at no point did I have a conversation with myself where it's like, what are they going to feel like if they see that I tagged them? First of all, who gives a fuck? Second of all, if you have to have that conversation, is there some level of, you know, disingenuous nature to you doing this versus you just mentioning them to mention them, right? And I think that's a game that people don't check in on either. It's like, if you have these conversations with yourself, it's kind of like the imposter syndrome thing. Is like, if you have to have 2 or 3 conversations with yourself before doing something, maybe the conversation is don't do it.
Right.
And it's like, maybe it's not, it could be 2 things. Maybe it's not the right thing to do, or maybe you at this point are not at the right place to do it. And it's like, I will say the stuff I say with personal impunity because I don't care what the reaction is. Because I'm at a place where I'm like, I really don't give a fuck. I'll give my address out if you have a problem. Like, I don't give a fuck who you are. But it's like, I know that I'm at that place in many ways, so I'm cool with it. But it's like, if you're not at that place, don't invite a stress you're not welcome to, or you're not ready for. Like, social media is a crazy place. If you're afraid that you're going to post something and someone's going to, you know, put a negative comment underneath it, and that's going to affect your week, don't do it, and possibly do something else. Like, there's many 9-to-5 jobs that are very safe, and you don't assume the risk.
Yeah. I mean, to take a book out of the rule from the streets, it's like, don't fucking write a check your ass can't cash, my friend. Like, if you're not really, I remember once I put up a tweet or something, and maybe it was a tweet that I posted to Instagram, and it was about starting strength. And it was like, I used to do this. I used to be a lot more inflammatory on the internet than I am now. I save it for the podcast and when basically I hang out with you and no one's around. But it was, what was it? It was starting strength is to strength sports what Scientology is to religion. Hashtag going clear. Hashtag going clear. Hashtag going to the ER. No, it wasn't that. It was Scientology is starting strength is the Scientology of fitness. And what's his name? What the fuck is the dude's name? The guy from Starting Strength. Oh, Mark Ripito. And Mark Ripito is the L. Ron Hubbard.
That's so funny.
Dude, and it was hashtag going clear, hashtag going to the ER. And I got sent a cease and desist. And to me, I was like, that's hilarious. Because I was at a point in my career, it's like, fucking at me. Right. I have enough confidence in what I do and what I've done and what my values are that I can say this. It's like, yeah, go ahead, bring it to my doorstep. Yeah. Here, you want to serve me papers? Go right ahead. I don't care. I actually ended up getting like one of their henchmen on the podcast as a consequence of it. And I had a conversation with them about it. And it was cool because my intentions weren't necessarily malevolent, because I thought that, honestly, if I do say so myself, I thought it was fucking hilarious.
That is hilarious.
I posted it, and then I put my phone on the bed and took my dog for a half-hour walk. And I was like, man, I just wonder how many messages I'm getting right now. And I chuckled the entire way down the street. I was just sitting, like, strolling along, having a nice laugh to myself, because I don't actually mean that. I don't even know what Scientology is. Like, I'm an idiot. But it's I would
never speak of L. Ron Hubbard that way.
But it's like, hey, what's up, dude? But yeah, like, I just thought it was hilarious, so I said it. Killian says, what's up? Jeff says, what's up? Happy Valentine's Day, by the way. When are we getting tattoos? Tomorrow. Sweet. So yeah, and I think you have to know your intentions first to realize, like, what are your boundaries? How is it, like, what is going to constrain your ability to, like, generate or create leverage in a social situation for that that reason of reciprocity? Are you providing value? Are you coming from a place of good intention? And if the answer is yes, then man, you're entitled to it.
Yeah, go ahead. And I think that's the thing, right? Is the people that come to it with the right intentions, and the right intentions don't need to be selfless either. You can have selfish intentions, but if you come at it without being malevolent or without being inflammatory in any way, outside of, possibly being funny, it's the leverage usually works for itself. Like you can leverage relationships where you don't realize you're leveraging them.
Sure.
It's like, I don't know how many podcasts I've been on in the last 18 months. I couldn't count.
No,
I couldn't even tell you. If I made a Spotify list, I'd probably find out stuff I didn't even know. But the idea is, I've never leveraged a relationship outside of probably having a real conversation with that person from the beginning. Like probably just talking to somebody and like about anything, and that person being like, "I have this podcast. Do you want to hop on?" And I'm always like, "Of course I would," because it's funny in that too. Like I'm still nobody, right? I'm still like, I don't move the dial on anything. But at the beginning, I was on podcasts and they were moving the dial for me. And now I know in some circumstances, I'll go on a podcast and I might move the dial for them. But I'm never going to stop doing that because it's an opportunity for me to talk to people that I would talk to if the mic wasn't on. And that it's a way of, if I can't give back to the people who gave to me, I can give back, I can pay it forward to the people in the same situation. Like if I could ever be who you were to me, I would love to be that person for somebody else, right? Like that's, if what drives you is acts of service, what drives me is the idea that I could possibly do something for someone that makes them either happier or more successful.
Yeah. And that for me, being in that situation was a direct consequence of people doing that for me. Like Ben Pekulski said, "Hey, you're kind of smart and Canadian. Let me tell everyone in the world that you're the dude at this." And I was like, okay. And it's like, what am I going to pay Ben back with? Right? What am I going to get him a bunch of peyote and sit cross-legged and cry for a week? Like, no, like I can't, there's nothing I could do to pay him back. So it's like, yeah, being in that situation. And the thing is, don't aspire to be a better person. Aspire to be the guy who next time, like my biggest aspiration right now is next time I'm at dinner with someone, I'm going to wait until is there a grace formality we need to worry about? Am I taking my social cue from the 3-year-old who's already started to muck his food? That's on me. I should have known that the 3-year-old does not know better and he's going ham on the French fries and salmon. I'm 30. I should have known to wait to see if there's, and that's what I aspire to. There is no quote I loathe more in an Instagram bio. There is nothing that is going to get you unfollowed quicker than "I aspire to inspire." I'm done here. Whatever is going on this, this is not a coalescent situation. If you aspire to inspire, what? Dude, aspire to be the guy who doesn't get his social cues from 3-year-old and start eating his salmon meal at his potential client's house before the, whatever the goes on. Aspire to be that person. Don't aspire to motivate people on the internet. What? Like, one of my favorite quotes is like, aim small, miss small, aim big, miss big. Right. So it's like, you need to set like a precise goal. That's like, not to get too far afield, but like, that's what I think why religion is so important. And like, religion doesn't have to be like Jesus or Jesus or anything like that. But everyone has a God, right? Everyone has a person or a conglomerate of people or places or things that they guide their overarching metaphysic, their behavior towards, right? So it's like, don't be that for yourself. You're an idiot, right? I don't aspire to inspire people. What I started eating food at the same rate as a 3-year-old. He had a bib on and was eating in a high chair. I'm a moron. Don't be inspired by me. Aspire to be better. Don't aspire to inspire people. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Nothing makes me sick to my stomach than seeing that in a post. That and tattoos that say live, laugh, love.
Or an infinity sign.
Oh yeah, that's the one.
Like you know what? It's a tattoo. It lasts forever already. Don't be redundant.
Dude, I never thought of that, but that is hilarious.
And it's just, so it's funny, like there's a quote that I hate, but I love at the same time. It's this idea, like, I don't know how many fucking probably good life / business things I've seen where they're like, you know, put your oxygen mask on first, you know, like put your seatbelt on first, or like, you know, don't drink from an empty cup or whatever bullshit they say. But in a way, it's like kind of to what you're saying. It's like, I don't aspire to inspire anyone. I was inspired from day one to save myself before everyone else. I was like, I want to be Berardi. I want to be on a private fucking island. I want to not, somebody asked me in a Q&A the other day, and I didn't get to it because I put a timeline on when I was going to answer things. Always created divide from personal to business, but they said, have you ever been broke? And it's like, dude, have I ever been broke? Have I ever had fucking money in my bank account, dude? Like, let's talk about timelines. And what I know more about is I know more about being broke. I've been at a gas station with $10 and a pickup truck, and I've put $5 in the pickup truck because I wanted to eat that day. And I knew, this is no word of a lie, I knew that it was $5 I could get my truck to the site, and I could take the bus home and pick my truck up on payday.
Yeah.
Have I been broke? Yes. You think I was fucking giving $1 away to some hobo when I had $10? Not likely. Because I was like, fuck you, man. I need this $10. And I need the nickel in my pocket. And I need whatever change I can find in the bottom of my backpack that adds up to a black coffee. I need all of it. And no one else can have it.
There was homeless people that used to be outside the Safeway on Shoreline Road, which is the one that I had the same situation. Like, I had my 4Runner that I was living in, or it's like kind of in between the office. So I'd like either sleep in the car, depending on how cold it was, I'd go inside. And then I would have like, you know, like 20, 30 bucks. And I was like, okay, I can drive to the store, or I can save that money. I can walk. I have to do 2 trips. And I was trying to figure out the calorie expenditure of like, if I walked and carried the groceries, am I then in a deficit? Like, this is meathead math, economics, science, energy balance bullshit. And I'm like such a moron. But I remember walking in, and like, I was obviously a worse version of myself than I am now. Like, I was 26, but like, I think you should be. If you're not,
yeah.
If you look in retrospect and you are the same as you were 4 years ago, what have you been doing? But like, I was in a bad place. My marriage was falling apart. I was obviously sleeping out of my car. That wasn't great. And I remember getting shook down by this homeless guy, like rattling the cup. And dude, I lost it. Snap. It's like, hey man, can you spare some? I'm like, what can you spare, bitch? And I started grabbing for his cup, and I literally chased him off the parking lot. Like, I was just at the end of my tether, man.
Yeah.
Like having anxiety attacks, losing my mind, no money, no processing, nothing, no idea what I was going to do with my life. And I literally remember, like, dude, it's like the scene in the first Ed Norton Incredible Hulk where they're chasing him through the factory, and then all of a sudden they see green eyes and the forklift gets thrown. That was like the 140-pound crackhead outside of the Safeway on Shoreline Road. He literally like had the audacity to ask me if I had anything to spare. And it's like, I mean, I was obviously a piece of shit. I put myself in that situation. It was not his fault. And I just remember, man, like, now, like, what can you spare? And I was like, dude, I got $30 and this is my last, and I'm hoping someone books an initial appointment so I can like make it through another day. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. It's hilarious to me when people, they have an inability to calibrate their problems. They have an inability, like for me, and that's why making decisions now around money is so easy. It's like, oh, I don't want to work with this person, and I don't have to walk to the grocery store. Great. Awesome. Carry on as you were.
And that's with me too. Now it's like, I have a capacity to be a better person based on the fact that I first made myself a better person. Like, you don't become better by putting yourself second place to society. You become better by putting yourself first place to society, and in return, benefiting society based on that. Like, I am okay. My rent is paid. I can exist. I can buy groceries without fucking checking the unit price, which I still do in some bizarre way. Like, I'll buy some bullshit Gore-Tex shoes, and then I'm like, fucking cheese is $7 this week. Well, I guess we're skipping out on cheese. And it's like, what am I doing? Because I just obviously don't have, capacity to grow as a human being. But it's like, I have so much more bandwidth to like do stuff for other people now. And when I genuinely say to people now, when I go like, I want to help you, it's because I do. It's because I've helped myself.
Right.
So it's to every trainer that's like in their first month who rolls into the gym. I remember working at a commercial gym, and people would get hired, and I'd always walk by the desk when they were writing their bio, and I was like, hey man, why do you want this job? And they're like, oh, I really want to help people. I was like, listen, don't save the fucking whales here, dude. If your job is to help people, you're out in 2 weeks. Like, you got to be here to make money. You make the money, you get to help the people.
One of my favorite quotes. And so have you seen Wolf of Wall Street?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is a very quotable movie, but he says there's no nobility in poverty.
Correct.
And it's like, and I hate this idea that, and I think people don't necessarily see it in that way. I think they try and superimpose nobility into their poverty to give them a source of meaning. And it's like, your meaning should come from the responsibility that you've earned in being able to leverage your situation and the improvements you've made in yourself to help other people. That's where you should find your meaning from, right? Like, from finding meaning from responsibility. That's kind of like a, Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. That's sort of like the ethos of that book. But there is, and when I saw that movie, when I saw Wolf of Wall Street, he said that, and obviously he's saying it in this like very grandiose, very greed driven, but like, I think there is some truth to that. Like, there is no nobility in being a martyr for this cause. And obviously that might not be the case across the board, but what are we doing here? We're talking about coaching people on the internet, right? We're not Mother Teresa. Like, come on, give your head a shake.
And that's the thing. Like, don't take half measures. Like, you want to make no money and save the souls of others, like join the seminary or whatever the fuck that thing's called. Like, I don't know about that, but I think it's so true. Like what you're saying. And like my driver of gradating human beings is the idea that those more capable or privileged, it is their role to help those who are less. If you have nothing, I expect nothing of you than getting up and doing whatever role you play on society. Dude, if it's stacking bricks, that's what I expect you to do. I don't expect you to fucking give your money away. You got none. If you got a ton of money, I don't expect you to give it all away either, but I expect you to do something within your capacity to drive society forward. That's what I think. It's like able-bodied human beings, able-bodied adults, and you know what? I'm going to say males, bench 225, hammer a nail. If you're listening to this podcast and you can't bench 225 or hammer a nail, and you fit the possible general criteria of adult male, turn the podcast off, buy yourself a hammer and a bag of nails, hop back on when you can hammer a nail. While
you're at it, hold the door open for a girl and call your fucking mother.
Exactly.
These are all things within your reach.
But this is the idea. Like, if shit ever hit the fan and the world ended, there's going to be a person who doesn't have the capabilities of supporting themselves or others. And if you can't fucking bench at least 225, hammer a nail, hold the door and call your mother, you're not on the boat.
No.
If this is 2020, where the fuck that movie was, 2012, you're not on the boat with us, man. You're sitting at the dock, because wherever we land, you got no skills that are going to help us.
Right. Yeah. When the ship goes up, man, and Bezos flies us all out of here, and they're doing the draft, and you're getting left at the Port Authority. Sorry, son.
Easily. Yeah,
it's hard, man. Like, I feel people are so overwhelmed. Like, they bring themselves to their limits by this agent of self-sabotage. Like, I think everyone, because they want to find meaning and responsibility, finds responsibility in meaningless things. It's like, dude, you don't reverse engineer it. Like, don't make life harder than you have to, right? Because trust me, life's going to get real hard for you real quick. And if you don't have the coping mechanisms to manage a 225 bench press, or hammering a nail, or finding time to call your mother, or holding a door open for someone else. Someone said something the other day that really struck me. It's like, successful people don't leave their carts in parking lots.
So true.
Right. And it's like, yes, right. Every time I've seen some derelict just drive it up over the curb at a Target, it's like, well, this guy's not doing well. Right. This guy's not on his way to do anything other than watch Netflix or YouTube. Right. Like, it's just a means of, like, and again, I hate to like double back to the same thing, but how you do one thing is like how you do everything.
Well, it's the idea of seeing it through, right? Like, if you just leave your car in the middle of the lot, it's like you're A, you never see it through, and B, you have no responsibility to come back to the same place.
Right.
It's like, I come back to the same place every day. I do my dishes, I sweep up, start the dishwasher.
You put up something last week, and I don't know the exact wording of it, and I've been trying to think of, like, because it was so good. It was something to the effect of, like, if you don't want to like leave something better than where you found it, it's as if you never existed at all, or something like that. What was that?
Was it a post? I'm gonna have to read my own words.
Really?
Dude, I go into a
he blacked out. But I like the idea that you can be like,
To leave things unchanged is to never have existed.
That's amazing. That's everything. Right. Because it makes things so manageable. Like you just mentioned, like your dishes and like sweeping the floor in your condo. Why? Because I'm assuming, are still this Finding Forrester Sean Connery character that just yells obscenity outside of his window. It doesn't leave his place, but his place immaculate. Why? Because he's taking ownership over it, right? He's attempting to change his environment, and it starts, in the confines of the shoebox in the sky, aka the Hamilton residence, but it ends with every interaction that you have, right? Like the person bagging your groceries. You think he's stoked to be there?
Yeah.
You think he gives a fuck about your goddamn groceries? Have some empathy and be like, try and crack a joke, make him laugh, right? Like have like these real transactions with people that you can, even in a small effect, change that. Because like you'll never know where you're in a place and you help someone out and made them laugh, and that guy, you could be in an alley one day and some guy's ready to dust you up, and the guy who was bagging your groceries walks by. And like, oh yeah, it was a guy who was like kind of nice to me. And it's like, hey, what are you doing down there? And then the dude who's about to fucking dust you just runs away. And if you weren't memorable, if you didn't make a change, if you never existed to that guy, you think he's gonna fucking stick his neck on the line, look down the alley, go, that's a real shame. And he's gonna keep walking. And it's like, if people don't do it for the reason that, hey, someday this grocery bagger guy might be able to do something. One of the hallmarks of character that I was taught at a young age, my father taught me this. He grew up in Newfoundland, very traditional, like everyone's grew up Catholic, and morals and values are something that like they're instilled at a very young age. And he said this to me, and it's probably one of the few serious conversations I've had with my dad. My dad's kind of like a goof, but he definitely leads by action. But one of the things he taught me was, you can judge a character by how someone acts towards people who can't do anything for them. Right. So if you're like belittling the grocery cart guy, or if you're just ignoring him entirely, or the guy who's bagging your groceries, rather, it's like that is a character flaw. That is something that it's like, this guy is no different than you are. Right. Mm-hmm. But if you do it for that purpose, and don't do it like, oh man, maybe this guy's in a seedy gang, and then one day I can get leverage. I can probably get my drugs for cheap if I'm nice to this guy. I think, no, be nice to him, because what's your other option? Not ignoring him. Like, it takes zero effort, right? So it's like, I think when it comes to leverage, it should just be a consequence or a byproduct of just being a good person. Mm-hmm. Right? Really, at the end of the day, like, if you get your shit together, if you're aware enough to start to like fix these flaws that you have in yourself, to wait for the host to say grace or not say grace, right? To be able to make someone laugh, or change things as if you existed, then things are just going to start to, I don't want to say come to you in some sort of like, metaphysical way, but things will end up exactly as they should. If you act with good intentions, if you act in good faith, and you act in like putting other people first, the reciprocity and the leverage you gain from that will be infinitely better if you kind of have this malevolent, self-interested motives behind trying to create leverage in a relationship.
It's funny, like in kind of an indirect way, but in a huge way as well. Like, you're probably, of the two people that are my best friends, easily one of my best friends, if not currently my best friend. But I've got this friend, Brett Hurd. It was his birthday 2 days ago. And I've known Brett for the better half of more than a decade, actually now, way more than a decade. And me and him won't talk for huge periods of time on end. But somehow, every time I'm going through shit, Brett will just text me in this weird telepathic way, like he knows. He'll just shoot me a text, and he's like, hey, man, what's going on? Everything all right? I'm like, dude, no. My life is the worst it's ever been. He's like, thought so. And then, like, we'll hang out, or we'll just talk, or we'll fucking whatever. And it's like, I remember Brett was doing like a victory lap when I got to high school. And like, he just made friends with me, and Brett was my friend all throughout grade 9, graduated. He's been my friend ever since. And it's like this idea that the leverage I have on me and Brett's relationship was, if I, wanted to hang out with somebody or like not feel like shit, there's this reciprocity that's unspoken. Neither of us ever have to do anything, but at any given point we'll message each other, and it's like nothing's happened because there's reciprocity. we've both never entered into a friendship or asked anything of each other to get anything except for friendship, and that's it. And I think when people look at, where they stand in the fitness industry, and like, I think if you look at, people will, message me, and I'm sure maybe they message you, they probably don't, but people will message me all the time and go, oh man, like I'd love to know so-and-so, or I'd love to hang out with so-and-so. And I'm like, really? I was like, and they're like, oh, how do you get to do that? I was like, dude, I went to a gym and they were there. I don't know. And then I like got dinner with someone once. I don't know. Like Jordan Bacon of Barbells, Jordan Moffat.
Yeah.
Jordan Moffat used to work at Good Life, and he made these Bacon and Barbell t-shirts on custom ink. And the label said custom ink. It didn't say Bacon of Barbells. And he was selling them via PayPal, via his email address. And I was like, dude, I'll take 2. I had no money at the time, but I was like, I'll buy 2 t-shirts. He was like, great, thanks. And I made everybody who worked at my gym try and buy these t-shirts via email. And like every time Jordan drops clothes, I try and with whatever money I had at the time, no matter how broke I was, buy as much of the clothes as I could. I was saying this to somebody the other day. Somebody's like, oh, how do I dress like you? I'm like, dude, have cool friends. There are clothes in my closet that I never wear that are folded up. I solely bought them because my friends did cool shit and I wanted to support it. I'll never wear them. I'll probably never get around to it, but they're there. And I just own them because at any given time, I want to support people who do cool stuff. And you know what? Maybe I'm somewhere and Jordan says, I'm going to go eat sushi and hang out with the muscle doc from YouTube. And I'm like, what a douchebag, but I'll come along. And then I get to meet, but then I get to meet you, right? And it's like, dude, Jordan Moffat wouldn't have invited me to sushi if it wasn't the fact that we were literally friends who never asked anything. He never asked me to buy a t-shirt. I never was like, since I buy your t-shirts, can we hang out? We just developed a friendship outside of a leverageable relationship. And the reciprocity and leverage that came of the relationship was organic.
Yeah. And I think, dude, to aspire, and like not to use the word in like a dual context, but to aspire to create leverage for anything other than, a benefit to the other person, or to like to forward a relationship, right? Like if that's not the tenets in which you're trying to like act on, then you don't want the benefits of that leverage, right? You don't want what this person can bring to the table if they're not someone that is worth supporting, right? Because like you're going to get your name, you're either not going to get what you expect, and you should always know to expect nothing from people, right? Like I think if in almost like an insidious undertone to this, like I always think about like the scorpion and the frog, right? Like if you can find, that's why I think like good friends are so hard to find.
Yeah.
Because human nature, like you said, human nature out of the gate is not great, right? Like human nature is not to be good. And I think the parable or the fable of the scorpion and the frog is very much encompassing of that, right? So I don't know if we've talked about that one on the podcast before, but the idea that like there's a scorpion and the frog on the side of a river. The scorpion can't swim, obviously. The frog can, and the frog's about to cross, and the scorpion stops and says, excuse me, could you give me a ride to the other side? And he's like, well, no, you're a scorpion. You're going to sting me and I'll die. But he's like, then there's like this conversation around mutually assured destruction. He's like, why would I do that? And like, why would I sting you if I'm in the middle of the river and I sting you and you die, then I'll die as well. And the frog thinks about that wisdom for a second. He goes, okay, yeah, for sure. That makes sense. And, being, maybe defaulting to the better angels of our nature, he says, hop on. And then in the middle of the river, the frog looks up and he sees the scorpion with his tail up and he's ready to sting them. And the frog says, why? And then the scorpion just simply responds, well, I'm a scorpion. Right. So it's like, if you can break that. And I think that's what really defines friendship, especially friendship that are like, and relationships that exist over time. Like I've similar, like it's weird for me and you to go a week without talking, but like we pick up, like but the weird thing is we met 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago. 2 years ago. And it's as if I've known you since I was 5. Yeah. But I have friends I've known since I was 5. And there's 2 of them, my buddy Jake and my buddy Shane. And we'll go months without talking. And it's because they exhibit properties antithetical to human nature, right? They exhibit, they're not scorpions. And we all have that. Like we all in our brains have this scorpion that wants to act to a T of human nature, right? To the lesser, I know I keep using that Lincoln quote, like to the lesser angels of our nature, to our default survival instinct. Like what is easiest, what's most efficient, what's most expedient is usually not what's right. We are by evolutionary demand conservatory creatures. How can we save energy? And if it's cutting corners, if it's fucking if it's kneecapping a motherfucker, if it's pulling a Nancy Kerrigan, right? Like we've got here through evolutionary means of things that saved us energy, period. Yeah. So if that means, fucking cutting someone out or cutting someone off or doing that, all of my friends, all of the relationship I have are with people who act against that default of our nature, that act against that scorpion in all of us. And those are the people that I've gained as a byproduct of acting in a similar manner with like a similar overarching principle or morality. I've gained the greatest amount of leverage from, right? And it's I don't sit there and I take inventory of it. It's never something that I do of them. It's always, what can I do for you? Right? Because you being that person who can tame that scorpion part of your personality, that can tame the expediency in which you could just move yourself forward, that to me has gained more benefit than ever if I could have imagined of sitting back and going like, how can I move these pieces across the board? Well, I don't really like this guy, but he's got a big network, so I'm going to go do something with him. It's like, dude, it's a non-starter. Like, it's a zero-sum game. You can't move forward if that's your driving force. Like, the universe just balances you the fuck out. Because I've done it. Like, I've done stuff with people. I've done podcasts with people that'll never get released. I was like, I've got a big following. But then I talked to him like, he's a douchebag. Fuck that. I don't want cached public record. I want to delete this memory card and throw it in a river.
Yeah. And I think like part of what you say, like even with the scorpion and the frog, like you look at it in the way of it's like, I just do what I do because that's what I am. And I think, that's all really hard for people to break. But I sometimes think it's hard for people to break due to their need to identify themselves in a room. It's like, I am this. I can never do that because I am this. It's like, dude, I've been so much fucking shit in my life just to pay my bills. I have no identity. I'm just a guy who exists within a space that does whatever it takes to do the thing that happens in that space. So it's like, I don't assume an identity. Like there's no business card I hand out when I walk in a room. And I think people are so opposed to just being themselves existing within a space rather than creating an identity that infiltrates the space. And I think, like you said, it's about reading the room. It's like, dude, I'll go into a room where I'm physically not the biggest, but maybe the biggest person. I'll go into a room where I'm definitely like the most innocuous, unnecessary human being to exist there with people. And it's like, know who you are in that room and play that part. And eventually you'll go into the rooms you want to go in. But fuck, man, I've been in a lot of rooms I'd rather not have ever been in.
Yeah, 100%.
And you got to be the person you got to be when you're in that room. So it's like, don't create an identity and then shoehorn yourself into shit all the time. Like, just be a person.
The hard part is, I think that's a lesson that gets most easily taught in times where you're in rooms where you shouldn't be. The times when you're in rooms where this might be the last room you're ever in. It's like because it's born out of instinct. Like it's born out of like, okay, how do I, where are the exits? How do I find my way to these exits without tripping over shit, causing attention to myself? Like, I need to get out of here before shit pops off. And it's funny because it's always the people who have very good situational awareness that have been in positions that necessitate it. But look, now, like, I'm not saying fucking roll up on a trap house or fucking, hang out on the stoop and then wait for whatever. But you should approach rooms you're in with that same level of severity, right? Like, and there's like, I was talking to you about kind of what I was up to last week. And like, I was in a room that started to resemble that of a Puff Daddy music video. And I was like, I knew what shoes I was going to wear. And that was my ticket in. It's like, okay, I fit in. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I was the only white dude in this room. I was the only guy who was under 6'4". And I was the only guy who didn't have 8 figures in a bank account. I didn't have an AP. I didn't have a rollie. I had nothing on my wrist. There were inexplicable Dobermans inside this very nice house. And I was like, I need to be the person they want me to be. That wasn't a dangerous situation, but it was like, I can't be the biggest guy in this room for a lot of reasons. Like physically, I can't be the biggest. And in some rooms where I have to be, some rooms I have to start, like we literally stand in front of people and talk for a living. Me and you have to be the biggest guys in the room.
Yeah.
Like we did a seminar once and one of the dudes there was 6'9", the Calgary one where you drop the fucking shield line. Guys, I have to be bigger than a guy who's 6'9". Why? Because this guy's paying me to tell him shit that he learns and he needs to learn with confidence. In that room last week, but you know what I was thinking of when I was in that room? It's like, I remember being on a condo apartment over a laundromat on Olette once. And there was 2 handguns on the table and a mountain of blow the size of my fist. And it was like, how did I navigate myself out of that situation before I got involved with anything on that coffee table, guns, coke, or otherwise? And I was like, okay, this is easy. This is because every one of these guys has a huge contract with a team. They're not going to try and fuck me up. But it's like, I'm relaxed now in my ability to navigate the social landscape with ease. And I was exactly who everyone wanted to be. And I was still within the confines of my morality. My identity was not a chiropractor. Like, oh, hey, what's up, man? Who are you? Like, oh, I'm Jordan. Nice to meet you. Oh, yeah, great. Nice to meet you. I'm a chiropractor. I'm this. I was like, nope, I'm just Jordan. Hey, check the shoes. Yeah. All right. I got a thing. This is great, but I got to go, guys. I'll see you. All right. Okay. Out of there. But I think people don't see what acting in accordance with the room they're in. They don't see the severity of it. Right? They don't, because it's not a life or death thing in that situation. But if you treated it like that, it could be such a point of leverage, right? Like, I like that guy. Who's cool. Who's that guy? Oh yeah, no, it's Jordan. He's this, he's that. Great. I'll let them tell the story. I'm not going to tell you what I do. I'm like, I'm Jordan. I'm here. You're here.
That's the thing. And I think that's a big thing with me. Like, I'm probably self-deprecating to a fault at times, but it's the idea that it's like, I'm never anybody. Like, because at the end of the day, like, you are only identified by who you're described as by the court of public opinion. So why am I going to tell you who I am when you already decided who I was? Like, I'm going to show up and I'm going to leave and you're going to say whatever you're going to say anyway. So I'm not going to tell you who I am.
Right.
I'm going to come in. I'm nobody. You decide when I leave. And then if you call me on the phone, I'll know who I am to you.
Right. And it's one of the most frustrating, and not frustrating, man. Like, everyone's got to find their own path in this. And like, it's not fair for me to judge, but I went to grad school with a guy who every time we hung out, he would tell me what type of guy he was. And I was like, the only memory, I don't know what type of guy he was. I just know what type of guy he told me he was. Like, there was no real conversation. Like, I'm not that type of guy. I'm not the type of guy to do this. I'm not the type. It's like, then what? Dude, there's nothing substantive here. Like, there's nothing of substance. You're just telling me what you're not, and I'm supposed to fill in the blanks. And it's like, that's expendable to me. Like, that's not something that I'm going to pursue. It's like, because it's as if you're trying to convince yourself of something. Right? Like, know who you are. Work and be the most important person in that survival situation. Like, have you ever gone through a CPR class? No fire, no wire, no gas, no glass. There are no hazards here, right? That was the initial little thing that they go through. Because it's like, guess what? That's what I do when I enter into rooms now. Because it's like, I'm not useful to anyone if I'm going to get capped in the room that I'm in. So it's like, and that's essentially like, that's a parable on reading the room. When you're entering into a situation where you're attempting to help someone, are you at danger first? And if you haven't ever been in real danger, it can be hard to walk into a room that's safe and well lit and, HVAC and the whole 9 yards. But dude, like, if you play that situation right, you have no idea how much people want to do for you. You have no idea how much people with more want to benefit, want to be that agent of change, want to pay it back by paying it forward. Right. And sometimes people will never know because they're too busy going into the room looking for something. They're too busy. It's like, dude, like, just, you'll get out of this situation exactly what you need if you just be yourself and be who you need to be in that space. Like, it's easy for us to look at opportunities lost and like, oh man, I was so close. But it's like, you have no idea how many situations that could have arose for you that didn't, because of the way you acted, because of your awareness or lack of awareness in a situation, right? Like, there could have been someone looking for the trainer to go to the island. And, they want to establish a relationship because you got to go on a jet and live with this guy for a bit and whatever. And you come up, hi, yeah, I'm this and I'm that. Like, oh, Jesus Christ, I can spend more than 5 minutes in a room with this guy. I'm not going to hire him to be a trainer. Little does he know I have a private island and I'm looking for a trainer. And that's the ultimate thing with the business we're in, is people don't necessarily buy our services. They buy us.
By you.
Right? It's just like when you're doing mentoring, it's like, there's 10,000 million people that mentor people in the space of fitness.
Yeah.
But there's one Killian. Without a shade of a doubt, there's only one Killian, right? But like, for better or for worse, fuck it, man. Like, people know what they're getting when they're getting when they're getting into it. It's nothing generic. It's you. And I think for people to want to ascend to that situation, it's like, they can't be you. Stop it. Am I going to open it right now? I'm in the middle of a podcast. I gotta open it. What do you say about this girl, eh? Unreal. We'll talk. But yeah, I think it's people, they too often are like, I'm going to go in with this particular reason. And some of the most beneficial conversations I've ever had are, if I go in a room, it's like, oh, like so-and-so is going to be there. It's the random guy next to you that you hit up and you have no idea. So that's how I met Don Saladino, right? We were going out to dinner with, it was me and Ben, and his buddy Lee Baxter is he owns Forever Young Inc. On Queen and Bathurst, right by your place. And he's like a fight promoter, and we were going to Madison Square Garden and watch this guy fight. I'm like, oh, cool, like Lee Baxter, like what a gangster. And little did I know, the guy that I started chatting up next to me was Don Saladino. And we just started, like, he was in good shape. I was like in good shape at the time, and we just started talking little, and then now he's like one of my best friends. Right. So it's people, if you put blinders up to that, and if I was just like, okay, I'm here, my mission is like to talk to Lee, and like he's got boxers and I want to work with boxers and all this, I would have been blind to the opportunity to like make such a good friend. And Don has done more for me than almost anyone I've met in the last 5 years. And it was born of just like, hey man, you're a guy sitting next to me. I want to leave this place in a different way than I found it, so that I will have existed in this space. So let's talk and let's have and then dudes from that has been 2.5 years, and it's been one of the best friendships I've had. So it's, there's just so much to be gained. Like, I think people, so like, as much as we can act in bad faith, and it's a default too, I think there are people out there that if you let them and you just give them a little bit, what you'll get back in return is beyond what you can comprehend.
Yeah. And I think like, if they're just like hearing what you've said, and like something I've realized, even lately with myself that I kind of think about every day is this idea that like, I only know what exists to me when it exists, right? Like, I'm not interested in fucking TV shows because they don't exist to me. Like, I don't watch TV. I'm not missing out, right? I never watched Game of Thrones. I didn't miss out on it. It never existed to me. It wasn't something I experienced that was taken from me. And the idea that people walk into rooms, this is like when you walk in a room with your phone out, it's like you're going, what do I have to gain? But I only know who I am. So every time I experience a situation, I go, what do I have to lose? And
I would go one step further and go like, what do you have to give?
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's like, when like, what do you have to lose and what do you have to give? It starts to look like the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it comes down to your identity. It's like, what I have to give is myself. What I have to lose is only the morality and self-identity that I have. Like, I know who I am. I can only lose who I am.
Yeah.
I got no money. I'm only losing me. What do I have to give? Exactly what I am. I'm not going to come in with what do I have to gain if I talk like this. It's like, what do I have to lose if I don't just be myself?
And I think the one thing you care about losing is the one thing people can't take from you anyways.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I've had people call me names. I've had like people yell obscenities at me, and it's like, that sounds like a you problem. Like, and I've said that. It's because like, I'm very aware of where I'm at and what I've done and the mistakes I've made. And it's like, if you can enter in with that, like that is the spear and the shield, right? Like to have a spear so strong it can penetrate any shield, while holding a shield so strong it can be impregnable to any spear. It's like, you can't, like, I hate to rip on Goggins or rip off Goggins because I think he's insufferable, but it's like, you can't hurt me, right? Like, I can go into a room and be like, all right, yeah, like, okay, this is it, take it or leave it. And if someone takes it, it's like, great, this is what I have to offer. This is me. Go ahead, take it. And if this can help you in any way and that reciprocates back on me, then great. If nothing comes of it, then that's exactly what should have come with it. But if you show up with anything other than yourself, then the results of that are going to be negative across the board, or just not be positive.
Yeah. And I think It's funny. Every business podcast we've done has come down to, at the end of the day, it's like being confident in your own identity.
Yeah.
And it's not having to identify with something. It's just knowing who you are. It's like, if you know who you are, you know how much to charge. If you know who you are, you know that what you do is good. And if you know who you are, you know you're never taking advantage or acting malevolently on relationships that you currently have.
Yeah. So, all right, let's put a wrap on this. Big business number 3, leverage. Don't be a piece of shit. I think, yeah, like ultimately working on the thing that you are attempting to leverage, which is yourself.
Yeah.
Right? If you can get that, if you get your ducks in a row, understand your morals and values, right? Understand like how your experience can affect other people, be cognizant of that, be aware of like your intentions. And if you start to deviate away from those intentions, be able to check yourself in real time, or be able to retrospectively go back and change, right? Whether it's you potentially offending 5 people in 5 minutes by saying stuff and stopping yourself immediately, or it's me going for the salmon because the 3-year-old went for the salmon and then they had to say grace afterwards. It's like, okay, mine was like, it's been bugging me all week. Yours bugged you for 2 seconds and you cleared the air. But it's like being able to stay within your wavelength of morality, understand what are the outer limits of those frequencies in which you can resonate at. And then you'll begin to resonate with exactly who you should, when you should. And that is going to be where you start to gain the ultimate leverage and start to gain the benefits of that reciprocity. We did it. Big business number 3.
C3.
All right, so we're gonna put this up, and we'll just do a poll every single time and just watch how the poll numbers go. Like, should we do a big business number 4? Yes or no? And I'm just interested to see if we should start to see more stacking up on the no. But I dig it, man, because I think it's the necessary conversations. Like, it'll be interesting as a bit of a teaser. So 1, podcast coming out. 2, we're gonna record an intro quickly after this. Skill acquisition course is for the re-up. Is Bruin second semester skill acquisition, first semester feedback. Ridiculous. Initial cohort, man. I mean, you could speak to this better than me. Like you grabbed this one by the balls and took it all the way through. So give me a quick rundown. And again, we'll record this in the intro, but if you guys are first hearing about this, skill acquisition starting March 29th. Course, Killian Hamilton at the helm. Go.
So skill acquisition is a far deeper dive than just cognitive associative autonomous. It goes into not only how we learn, when we learn, and why we learn, but it goes into how does exercise associate with external stress, and how can we bias both external and internal stress to our programming to drive athletes not only to achieve better things, but be motivated to achieve for longer periods of time.
Brilliant. So guys, that's going to be up on the website, www.pre-script.com. That'll be in your inbox. If you're on our mailing list, that'll be on our Instagram, Killian.Hamilton, at Killian.Hamilton, correct. And at the _muscle_doc. I did a link tree the other day because I'm like, you've been knowing me for a while and you had never directly directed it at me, but I figured out enough times. I'm like, I think he's probably talking to me. I should probably do that. So that'll be in my link tree. Shout out to my mentor, Killian.Hamilton. But yeah, guys, check it out. The feedback from the first course. This is going to be where an arm of our curriculum is going. It's overarching like training meta theory, things like a theory of everything to kind of like rip off. I think that was a Neil deGrasse Tyson book. But anyways, it just helps gain confidence. Like it helps you gain confidence in what you're doing. It helps build competency, and then the confidence stems off of that. So again, the reviews from the first semester, out of this world. A lot of people very excited about what they've taken away from the course, learning how to learn, and then also having the labs associated with that, super helpful. So we have Monday lectures, Tuesday labs run by Killian. So guys, to be sure to check that out. And we're going to put this poll up. If you want to see more of the big business, let us know. This is going to be a running joke and/or segment on the podcast. And stay tuned, video podcast studio coming, and we hired a real adult to design it for, so it's going to look sick. So guys, keep an eye out for that. And we'll see you guys next week.
Dope.